Heaven's California.
Yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing another Overwatch discussion. We have got around 20 minutes to discuss this. I'll do what I did with the last one. If I do finish before the gameplay, which is a loss, but it's a fairly decent loss. It's good to show a variety of wins and losses to see where I'm going wrong. I've got a couple of games to evaluate, so you have to excuse the background noise. We've got a helicopter going over just now. But today, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be looking at the most important character in Overwatch right now in terms of the meta, and that is Mr. Zenyatta. Now, Zenyatta is the most crucial part of a dive comp that you can, the most important character that you have to have in order to be a dive comp, because the concept of the dive comp, if I can find some footage to show you a dive comp that I can commentate over that isn't going to be copyrighted, then that's fine. Obviously, you got the Overwatch World Cup. If you do want to see effective dive comps, then go to that. I'm not sure if you'll be able to find it, but a good example was today. It was Australia versus Japan. Australia going through to BlizzCon now. Yeah, dive comp is the meta, as you guys will be fully aware if you are an Overwatch player. Now, as you can tell here, someone in my team, Lucy, has gone and chosen a Zen. Now, at the moment, this team is not a dive comp. Now, dive comp is effective for both attack and defend. Don't think because you're defending, oh, we're automatically going to need to play loads of defense heroes and that's it. We're going to need a Reinhardt to block all the damage, because that's not how a dive comp works. If you have any other tanks apart from a D.Va and a Winston in your team, it can no longer be classified as a dive composition. It can be a team that's very attacking, but it won't be a dive comp, because a dive comp does rely on the two tanks being a D.Va and a Winston, because a dive comp is characters that have a high level of maneuverability by themselves, and the rest of the tanks are just too slow. Roadhog isn't part of the dive comp. Roadhog and Zarya work very well behind a Reinhardt shield, and Orisa can also work well behind a Reinhardt shield, and the other two work well behind her shield as well. But they're not part of the meta at the moment. It is the D.Va and the Winston. Now, the idea of this is a dive comp. You're going to dive on top of the character. You're going to dive on top of the team. Now, you're not going to dive on top of the whole team. You're going to isolate their characters, their players, one by one, and narrow them down. You'll get into some pretty big team fights. But the idea of this being the Zenyatta, this is where the Zenyatta comes in. The Zenyatta is the maestro of the team. He is the playmaker. The plays come from that Zen, because he will decide when we're going to go in for a push. If the Zenyatta pops his ult, then you know you're going to have pretty much invulnerability unless they're inputting a lot of damage. Now, the attacking heroes you can play with dive comp, I will come to you later. But I've talked about the tanks. Now we're going to talk about the support. We're talking about Zenyatta, obviously. Now, he's got his healing orb. His healing orb should not be going on tanks. You see your tanks about to die, then that's not really Zen's problem. His orb, his orb of harmony, or whatever it's called, is supposed to go onto one of the DPS heroes. Now, the DPS heroes can vary. You had players like there's someone who plays for Japan. I can't remember who it was, but he's a very, very good McCree player, and they were playing a dive. I mean, dive is what all the pro teams are playing, and they played perfectly fine McCree, and he was doing absolutely fantastically. But as you can see here in this gameplay, the Genji is causing us many of issues, because he's diving on top of us, and as a Reinhardt, I can't deal with that, because I can only put my shield up in one direction. The Roadhog's absolutely slamming me. They got the Zaryas putting that bubble on. Zarya the meta could be changed in the next update coming out this week with Doomfist, but at the moment we're not seeing anything too great. And as you can see here, this Genji is absolutely destroying our team, because we're a very static team. The level of maneuverability isn't very high with us, but unfortunately, as I'm going to get onto now, the role of the second healer. Now, the second healer in dive comp, I'm afraid for you Mercy players out there, Mercy doesn't really cut it in the dive comp, and I'm going to tell you why. You need to, for this dive comp to work properly, you're going to have two tanks. Now, these tanks have 600 and 500 health. That's 1100 health, and the Mercy takes a pretty long time to heal up there. Now the Zen, obviously, his healing isn't the best. He's going to be putting it on one of DPS and pretty much leaving it on him all game. Varying it between the two, because then they can get around the flanks. They know they've got a little bit of extra health, and they're going to be able to do things. As you can see here, still, this Genji is absolutely destroying us, and we don't do anything about it because the team is so static. And for me, I can't work with a Winston if we have the Mercy, really, because I'm going to be jumping around all the time, and it is very hard. So I'm kind of limited to playing that Reinhardt at the moment with the current meta, which doesn't bother me. Reinhardt is he's still a very good character for what he is, but when they got that Genji, he is going to start ripping you apart because you just don't have the maneuverability to get past him. Now, their team isn't exactly a dive comp either, but it's a little more divey than ours. They've got the Ana, which is fine for a dive comp. You can have an Ana healer. You normally will see a Lucio and a Zen, though. And the reason for this being is both their ults can trigger a defense, can help ride out a defense, or can trigger an attack. You see that Lucio and you're attacking, and you can ask him, Lucio, pop your ult. One of the main things that is, obviously, I'll cover that in a minute actually. You'd say, Lucio, pop your ult. Lucio pops his ult. Your DPS, their opportunity then is to go, and they're going to have to use their ult. Whether you've got a Genji, you're going to need characters that are going to need to be able to pop their ult pretty quickly. McCree, again, doesn't really cut it in dive comp. He's a bit of an interesting one, especially for attacking, because you need to attack quickly. You don't normally only see McCree for defense. His ult isn't the best in attack, but again, if he works at your dive comp, then your dive comp's going to be fine. Team communication is crucial for a dive comp. If you don't have team communication with your team, whether you've got communication, you need communication with all of them, really. Because if you don't have communication with all of them, then things are going to get confusing. You're going to have 4 of you, say, like I play in a team of 4. 4 of us are going to be diving, and the other 2 might choose a Reinhardt, and they might choose a static DPS like a Junkrat or a Bastion that isn't going to be able to move forward with the team. Now, ideally, yes, you could say Bastion can sit on the cart, but that's not really that's not really how things work for dive comp. If you like, the only way you're going to be able to see an effective dive comp and how to see if you can pull this off as a team is to go into watch some streams, watch some competitive streams with proper teams that play, and that's a great example because they're all playing dive comp at the moment. As you can see there, you can see that the enemy team are rushing through, and that Zen is going to hold them off with that, giving us that extra health, and we managed to somehow get through there. Diva's only just lost her mech, which is fine. I'm alright now. I can slam in a load of damage on that Diva there, and we do get the Diva out of her mech. Now we do lose our Zen, and that might be where we can do that. The Mercy has popped a res there. I don't want to talk too much about the gameplay. I would like to start looking at gameplay because I know how a lot about the game works. I watch a lot of comp games, watch a lot of pro games, and I know how the game kind of works. I think we do stop and get into this second point here. But the DPS, again, you normally only see Tracer and Genji. They got the Genji there. I don't think they have the Tracer. I think they've got a Soldier or something. You can use Reaper with dive comp. As long as you've got one divey attacking hero, they have got the McCree actually, which can work. As long as you have one of the fast action heroes, the second DPS can kind of sit further back. And if you have someone with good accuracy, obviously the Reaper is very good for defense because he's gonna ideally shred the Winston and Diva, which is good. Now, the one thing dive comp some people may go is, well, you're looking at that team and they're not going to input much damage. The Zen, okay, can input damage. The Lucio, yes, can input damage. His DPS is quite good. The Genji and the Tracer, you're like, where's the Soldier? Where's the McCree? We're worried we're not going to get the damage we need. Well, you won't need it because that's what the Zen's for. The Zen Discord is as I said earlier, he is the maestro of the dive comp. Without the Zen, you can't play a dive. You can't play a dive with someone who isn't prepared to play Zen. The Mercy, again, Mercy's not great on dive comp. She's just too static. She can only heal one character at a time. Whereas Ana and Lucio can heal more than one character at a time, and Ana's output damage is a lot better than she has other abilities that can help. Mercy, really, the res, yeah, that's one reason why people play Mercy. They say the Mercy res is clutch. Well, if you play effectively as a team and you coordinate your Lucio and your Zen all at separate times, then you won't need the Mercy res because you shouldn't end up dying If you need to attack, you can pop a Zen ult, you can walk through, that's fine. You can use a Lucio ult to attack, but you wouldn't pop them both at the same time because it's just not necessary. The Lucio one can be slightly better for attacking because you won't need that full damage all the way through the attack. You should burn through them quite quickly. The Winston, again, crucial part in the dive comp. He's the most divey tank, let's be honest now. Winston is the divey tank, and he's got a shield. You might be worrying, where's the shield? Well, Winston's got a shield. If you're in a massive bundle and that Zen is popping, the Discord Orb doesn't keep changing it around. If he keeps it on the tanks or the heals, burn through the healers, then you pretty much won the team fight. Also with a dive comp, because it's so diving, you don't really have much sustain by yourself. If you lose 2 or 3 players, which is kind of a rule of Overwatch anyway in a sustainable way, if you do lose more than a couple of players, then that team fight is going to be over. And you probably do need to back off. That's something that I try and do a lot. And people say, why aren't you getting to the point? And I do think that is a problem. That is one of the issues with people playing in the meta. They don't know how to play it. They know what they want to do, and they know they want to play their McCrees and their soldiers to get their plays of the game. But what they have to think about is this going to be helpful? Am I going to benefit from this? Like, dive comp also, it can kind of affect your character choice. It can improve your character choice. Because if I'm a Reinhardt and I see, well, we've got a Winston now, well, do we need 2 barriers? Not really. Is Winston and Reinhardt going to work? Well, not really. Him choosing the Winston indicates he wants to be a little more pushy on the attack, and Reinhardt is a very defensive attack. He's going to sit there, they're going to eat up the damage, and we're going to slowly carve our way through. But the Mercy res is clutch, but it's not part of the dive. Now, the last thing I want to be covering is how do we outdive a dive? Well, the only way we can really defend against a dive, a defensive defense against a dive, isn't going to work. Because I can just put together a quick defensive defense that we can put together. We can have a Reinhardt, we can have a Roadhog, or we'll stay with a Roadhog. We'll have the Mercy, we'll have a Zen or an Ana, most probably we can say an Ana there, and then our DPS we can have a Junkrat, and we could have a Soldier. Now the problem here is our tanks are very, very static, and if we have a dive coming after us, then they're going to dive on top of the tanks. Me as the Reinhardt and the Genji, I'm going to have the Tracer and a Genji both on me. Tracer is a Reinhardt nightmare as is Reaper at the moment, and he's just going to Tracer's just going to burn us through. They're going to get rid of the tanks. Tanks are gone. Now you've only got 2 DPS left, and you've got the 2 healers. Without the tanks, the rest of the team is nothing. So your defense is going to have to back off. It's very hard to back off as defensive crew. If you can burn through that, then you don't really back up. You can back up a little bit, but you don't want to back up too much. Obviously, there's places where you go to defend, and it's hard to tell. When a team is so accompanied with what they've been used to playing, it is very hard to then adapt to another meta that in a couple of months might probably change. We don't know if Doomfist is going to affect this meta or not. I probably won't get to be able to see that because I'm actually away. But you have to outdive a dive. You have to outdive them. The only way you can stop a dive is to dive on top of them as well. And that involves getting your Lucios, you're getting your Zen, more importantly, you're getting your Ana, you're getting your Winston, you're getting your Genji, and the Genji and Tracer can be swapped as McCree or a Soldier or a Reaper, another DPS, but as long as it's not too static DPS, you should be fine in a dive comp. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. But what we're thinking of now is, well, how are we going to practice this? Because it's not a good idea going into a dive, going in as a dive, as a fresh team, not knowing how to play dive. If you're going to play dive, you need to have practice first. If you want to practice on the comp, that's fine, as long as you're not too worried about your SR fluctuating a bit, because you're going to be playing characters that you're not necessarily too comfortable with. Now, yes, in all fairness, Tracer isn't too hard to play. Genji is mechanically one of the harder characters to play in the game. The Winston isn't too hard to play. The D.Va isn't too hard to play, and the healers aren't too hard to play. It's just a point and click. But you have to think about this. Ult placement is also very important. You've got a team diving on top of you. You're going to have ults that the Tracer doesn't really have to link them with anything. She can just... Her ult is just going to help you win a team fight. ults like Genji and D.Va and even Winston. Winston's great for holding up a point with his ult. He can smack a few characters around and maybe get a couple of cheeky kills. The D.Va is going to be helpful to clearing that point, and it can win you a team fight. Although in the higher levels, as you progress up, you're probably not going to have that issue where you're going to have players that are naive enough to sit there and pretty much let you win and let you take 4 of their players with a D.Va bomb. It's not going to be good enough for them. But as you do your higher, games will get harder. And, you know, in the lower levels right now, gold, silver, plat, them sort of mid-tier. Obviously, bronze is the lowest tier. I'd say gold, plat is where most of the players are at the moment. You're still not seeing that much for dive because teams are too afraid to go and change to it. They're happy playing what they're playing with. You can have a Ryan, you're just going to sit there and go, you know what? I'm going to be stubborn and I'm going to play Ryan every match. There's some maps where I'll go, yeah, I'm going to lock Ryan because I know the team I have, dive comp isn't going to work because the healers we have aren't. There's nothing wrong with having a Mercy. Obviously, I don't mind having a Mercy. But the thing that can be a little bit frustrating is your second 2 players. If they're not going to be playing along with you, if they're playing Genji and Tracer, then you're kind of like, well, we're kind of screwed here because we're more static and they're going to be pushing up and we're not going to be able to heal them. So you do have to kind of work with your team choices. If you're going to be playing a more static team, then you do have to, I'm afraid, choose a team that's going to be a little more static. Because you can see here again, I'm not sure if they got a bit divey again. They've got a Reaper there, and you can see he's just absolutely shredding. They got the Orisa, so no, they can't really have a dive with an Orisa. She's too slow moving. They got the Mercy, so no, it's kind of just an attacking defense. There is a difference between an attacking attack and attacking attack, where you can use any characters really, and you're going to try and get with them through them like that. You're gonna attack, you're going to move through, but you're not going to be diving on top of them. You're just going to be pushing forward. The dive is getting behind them and diving through like that. Your Zen will always stay at the back because he's the most important. He's the one you don't want dying. You want the Zen dead, then it's kind of more of an equal game. If they have a Zen and you don't, like, that's a big problem. If I see a game and I see a Zen, I'm like, well, this is going to be hard. Because if they got a Reaper or a Tracer and I know I got Discord Orb on me, that's going to be hard. So you will probably need, if you have just a bit of general advice, if you see a game and they've got a Zen, then you should probably choose a Zen yourself as well. Because that is going to help them. That's going to help your team. If you can't play Zen, if you're playing tank, then obviously, yeah, you're not going to change to Zen because you need the 2 tanks. You can get away with playing the 1 tank in dive comp. You can just play the D.Va or you can just play the Winston. Sometimes you will see the D.Va switched out. The Winston is kind of a bit more sustainable part of that attack, seeing as he's the only character there with a shield and capable of shielding the rest of the team. But I think that's a bit self-explanatory really. But that's kind of it with the dive comp discussion. Again, it's not me having to go at anyone, it's just a few tips. I like to give a few tips, a bit of news out there. And my tip at the moment, if you are not trying out the dive comp, then don't worry, it's not a necessity. But you've seen the high tier games out there, you know how effective it can be, so why not give them a go in a couple of nights? If you got a couple of you on, say, look, let's try out this old dive comp. Because it can work. It's a risk worth taking. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to try it for a couple of games, you're going to go, no, this isn't us. Well, that's fine. You can just go back to your old games and go back into comp. This one isn't for you. Like, I know I was probably best in the triple tank. The pharmacy was not good time for me as Reinhardt because they're going to Shrek you. There's nothing much you can do about them. And the dive comp isn't good for Reinhardt players. The more static players haven't had a good time in the last 2 metas, really, have they? Triple tank was great for static play. Unfortunately, I came a little bit too late for that. It went halfway into Season 3 and then Season 4 was the pharmacy. Now this is dive comp. Will we see Season 6 being dive comp? There's no sudden changes. I mean, where does the meta even come from? The meta comes from pro players. Whatever the pro players are playing, that kind of goes down to Grandmasters and Masters, and then that will slowly trickle down through the lower matches. Normally, we'll only get to the comp very late on, and then it changes, which is why the lower tiers do struggle. But lower tiers, you can sort of progress through playing any character If you're better at the game mechanically than someone, then as you can see there, just quickly, that was very unlucky. Must have just stepped off the cart for a bit there, and we did lose that game. But if you're a lower tier player, then you can get through the game mechanically, being mechanically better as any character. But once you get into them higher tiers, and everyone's aspiring to get that master or that diamond, then you will be coming against dive comps, and you probably will have to learn it. It isn't something that is optional. If you are playing a defensive team, as a defensive team against a dive comp, you're going to get smashed every single game because you will not be able to combat against it. The DPS will destroy your tanks. They will burn through your tanks with that Zen. But I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. If you did enjoy, remember to leave a like down below. If you would like to see some more Overwatch discussions, feel free to leave some topics down below in the description. I play Overwatch on a daily basis, so I can just get some more footage here. And I've got a few more games I can sit there and talk about, but the next video coming out will be a more of a discussion type video anyway, not a gaming type video. As you know, our current concept is 2 gaming videos, then just a normal discussion. But I think that is going to end it for this one, guys. If you did enjoy, remember, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.